Hey, what's up guys, welcome to another video in the tessellation series. Now in my previous video in this series I discussed some non-square quadrilateral shapes, and in this video I'm going to use one of these shapes, actually this one, that's called the parallelogram. We are going to use this shape to create a tessellation inside Affinity Designer. So I'll just go to the file and create a new document, the same size as we discussed previously, 1200 by 1200, and then press OK or create. And the first thing that we are going to create is simply a rectangle shape, and the size that we want for this rectangle is going to be, let's say 400, and let's say make it 200. So 400 by 200, that looks fine. Let's just align it at the center, and let's just remove any kind of fill color, give it a stroke, and let's just maybe give it maybe 3-point strokes. That seems fine. Now I'm just going to create a copy of this one by pressing Ctrl J, and then I'm going to change its size. Now guys, I'm going to approach this tessellation in a slightly different way. In the previous videos, in the previous tutorials, I just created random shapes, but in this video for this particular shape I'm going to use a photograph, and I'm going to try to create a shape from that. So now that I have created a copy of this rectangle shape, now I'm just going to reduce its size a bit, actually reduce just its width a little bit. So instead of width to be 400, let's just make its width to be 300. Okay, now please notice this thing what we have here. So we have this whole shape, this whole rectangle, from this side to this side, that measures 400 pixels in wide or 400 points in width. But this smaller one from this point is actually 300 points, which means that we have this area that is now 100 points. So remember this thing, that is why we have used these precise measurements. And this second copy of the rectangle, we reduced it to be precisely 100 points less than the previous one or the base rectangle shape. Now I'm going to select this top one, the copied one, and then convert it into curves. And then at the top I'm going to select these 2 points, this top left and the top right point, and then move them horizontally, and as soon as it snaps to the other side like that, I'm going to release it. Okay, now I do not need this back rectangle for the moment, so I'm just going to hide it and work on this one. So now this is a parallelogram shape because opposite sides are the same in length and they are pointing towards the same direction. Okay, now we need to convert it into a symbol, so I'm going to use the symbols panel and press create to create a symbol. And just for the ease, I'm just going to name this side. So the top side, let's just maybe name it R, and slightly make it slightly bigger here, and then press Ctrl J to copy it, and then name this side to be F. Now that we have two sides named, let's just bring these letters inside that symbol. Now we need to copy this one, so I'm just going to slide it horizontally and then slide it vertically. By the way, I'm using this translation method for this parallelogram, so slide it horizontally, and if it does not snap, it's okay, because we now know the size of this parallelogram, the horizontal size, that was 300. By the way, if you select that symbol, the size is now 400 because we have moved these upper 2 points to match the other side. So that is why instead of 300 it is showing you 400. Anyway, so let's just create a copy. I have already created a copy of this one. So now in order to move it horizontally, we know that we need to move it precisely 300. So I'll just add 300 to this X direction now, and now it fits perfectly on the other side. In the same way, I'm going to copy this one, press Ctrl J, and then move it vertically like that. Now that you can see that it is not perfectly aligning to edges, it should have aligned at this corner, but when we just slided it down, it is not aligning perfectly. But we know that this area here is 100 pixels, so if I just select this one and just remove 100 from the x-axis, now it fits perfectly, and that was the reason of selecting those precise measurements. Again, I'm going to select this one, press Ctrl J to copy it, move it vertically. Again, you can see that we have this area that is extending, and we know that it is 100 points. So all we have to do is just simply add 100 to the x-axis, and it's now fits perfectly. The last thing we need is slide it horizontally on this direction, and hopefully it will snap. Yeah, it snaps perfectly. And even if it does not snap, we know what we can do. Just put the number in the x-axis and we can fit it perfectly. Well, now this looks fine. It looks like a slanted cross symbol, and now we can work on it to create our pattern. Now, as I discussed earlier, I'm not going to create random shape here, but instead I'm going to use a photograph. Actually, before I do that, let's just remove the point. So I'm just going to use this lower right corner point and then simply break it using this action button, break curve, and simply select this line point and delete it, and select that line and delete it. Now I can just simply work on these areas and simply move these points and create a shape. So let me just bring in the photograph. So this is a photograph that I got from Unsplash, and it is free to use for commercial purpose. So I would recommend you to use those images which are free to use as a commercial purpose. Now I'm just going to simply flip it horizontally so that I can work on this area. Now the reason for me to select this photograph is that we have a defined profile of this horse. This picture is taken from the side, and we can see a well defined shape of the horse face or the horse head, which we can use to create you can say a recognizable pattern. So you can use dogs, cats, and any kind of animal which the photograph is taken in such a way that you can easily recognize it. If just going to create it in a silhouette of this shape, you should be able to easily recognize that animal. Anyway, so I'm just going to place this horse photograph actually in such a way that we should be able to work on it easily, and we should be able to create the shape of the head within this rectangular or the parallelogram shape easily. So I'm just going to put maybe ears of the horse at this corner and try to align it like that. Maybe, yeah, I think that would look fine. That looks better. I can align it this ear. So I think single ear would be fine. So maybe align this ear here, and then maybe slightly reduce it somewhat, like maybe adjust the position. You need to adjust the size and the position of the horse before you start manipulating the lines, because once you start manipulating the lines and after that you try to resize the horse and everything, it will be quite difficult to manage all the lines and all the points. So just make sure that you align it perfectly, and you do not have to worry about the size and the position of your animal. Anyway, I'm pretty satisfied with this shape here, and actually this size of this image. Then I'm just simply going to lock it in the layers panel so that I do not accidentally move it. Anyway, now I'm going to go into the first symbol, this base symbol, select the curve and start creating the shape around that head, or that profile of this head. So I'm just going to create points, and I'm creating these straight points. I'm not creating smooth lines because I will create smooth lines once I just finished with this one. So I'm just creating these points here and there and trying to give it a defined shape. So once I am here at this area like that, I want to create another face of the horse down towards in this location. So just like the yin, actually it's called yin yang symbols, so yin yang, so kind of like that I want to create another face that is reflected in this area here. So for that purpose I'm going to just slightly cheat here, because it's artistic image, and it's artistic, you can say that, a way of creating this pattern. So why not slightly cheat it to create something unique pattern. So I'm going to select this symbol, press Ctrl J to copy it, and then go to the symbols panel and simply detach it. So I have only detached one copy of the symbol. The other symbols are already in the same way that they are supposed to be. And in this symbol I'm just going to select that curved line, this line that I have just gave it a shape, and simply I'm going to flip it vertical and then flip it horizontal. And let me just hide the other symbol so you can see that. So now that we have this kind of like a horse shape here that is reflected vertically, and let me just recolor it and give it slightly different color so you can easily see it. I think that looks fine, slightly bluish, that looks fine. Anyway, let's bring back those other symbols, and now I just want to adjust this face here in such a way that I can create you can say that a face, a bottom face like that. So the one problem that I have faced here is that you can see that this face is quite big, it's not going inside that rectangle. So if I just place it here or maybe place it here, we still have a large gap here that we need to fill. So we need to undo everything. Let me just delete it, and let's start where we position the image of the, or you can say the photograph of the horse. So I'm just going to undo a couple of times until I get that straight line for this side, and then start positioning the horse. So I'm going to select that horse image again, position it, maybe make it slightly smaller so that we can fit two faces upside down here. So that is the goal here. Let me just position it. I think that looks much better, and let me lock it again, and then again once again select these points and maybe adjust these points and try to create a shape of a horse face. And now we can again do the same thing, create a copy of this symbol and go to the symbols, detach it and remove any kind of unnecessary groups or shapes. Select that group, simply flip it vertically, and then let's just bring this curve shape out of side of that group, we do not need it. And then we can just bring this curve and let's just color it slightly different. I think that looks fine, and let's just flip it horizontally and then move it in this location. Now it looks fine, we can adjust it slightly. So I want to adjust this position like that here, this looks much better. You can always manipulate these lines later on. So this looks fine. Maybe I can position it here, and this position would also look better, but you can see that it's going too much inside that we do not want. So I might position it here in this location and then try to adjust those lines. So I'm just going to remove that vertical, actually horizontal line, this one, and try to adjust the position of this red line in such a way that it matches the lower profile or the lower neck area, face area of the horse. So maybe position it here and then slightly like that. Maybe bring this one here a little bit and this one a bit here. Okay, that looks much better. We can always come back and work on these things. Anyway, let's just bring it inside our symbol, and now let's try to modify that black line that we have and try to position it in the same locations, in the same points that we have for the red line. So adjust these positions and try to create a similar shape from that red line that we have. Now I have positioned it in this location perfectly, And one thing that we can do here is to adjust that horizontal line, so that we can get some kind of gap or space here. Okay, so that we can easily modify this line now to get that shape of the horse head. Okay, now that I have this black line points perfectly placed just below or just at the same locations of the points of the red, I can simply work on this neck area and try to give it a shape like that. Now it does not have to be perfectly aligned with the neck and the body of the horse, because it's an artistic pattern. We just need to see the head, the defined shape of the head. We are not worried about any other parts of this horse, how it looks. So the head and the shape, once it looks like a horse and a shape that is perfectly recognizable, we can take some artistic leverage and create the other side as we see fit. So I can just maybe try to create an ear here, and try to create similar style of head at this location. Yeah, that looks fine. I can hide this red line now. Let's just hide the photograph for the moment and see how it looks. Now you can clearly see that it looks like a horse, a head of the horse. And one thing that you can see here is that if we just manipulate this line, this side here, and we can create kind of like a mane area or the hair area of the horse on this lower bottom as well. So let me show you what I mean. So if I just bring it here downwards and try to create like that, you can see that I'm getting the same kind of look on this lower side, lower edge here, like that. So it totally depends upon you how you want to see it. So kind of like blended two shapes together, or you can say merging together. So guys, now I'm pretty satisfied with how it looks. I might slightly work on the you can say these main areas or the hair areas, but for now I'm just going to simply make these points smooth, so that I can easily make it look kind of like a smooth shape, not this jagged edges. Alright guys, I'm pretty satisfied with this shape now, and now I'm just going to create slight details here just to give it some shape, some definition of the eyes maybe. Now the next step is to extract our main horse tile from this whole image or the complex symbols, and then simply join those tiles the same way we previously used to do. So I'm going to select actually let's just delete this group that contains the letters F and R. Select all the symbols, go to the symbols tab and detach it. Once they are detached, right click and choose this option, ungroup all, and then we can just simply hide the detail of the eyes and ear that we created and simply remove the lines that we do not need. So all we have to do is to see which lines we do not need. So this one we do not need, this one we do not need, and this one we do need, and also this one we do need, but partially. So let's select this one. We need maybe do not need this area, so delete it and delete this area. So once they are joining at this area, so from there on towards the horizontal we do need that line. Same is the case with this line, we do not need these points, so I'm just going to delete this and delete that point, and now we get kind of like a closed shape. All we have to do is that select the curve shapes and join those corner points that we have using that action option, that is join curves. And similarly join maybe this point here as well, simply join it, and then join this last point as well, join curves. Okay, now let's just maybe simply make it black. We do not need to put too much details here. So that's the black shape, and then we can bring back those details that we created and remove any kind of you can say the stroke color and the stroke width, and then I can just simply adjust their size to be maybe slightly more prominent and make the eye a little bit large, maybe the ear detail slightly more prominent as well. Alright, that looks fine, that does look like a horse. And now all I have to do is to select those details that I've created and simply press Ctrl J to copy that, flip vertically, and then try to place it on the other side of this shape. So maybe just simply eyeball it and try to place it in the appropriate location, try to mimic the other side. Okay, now that we have our details ready, all we have to do is just simply select all of this, press Ctrl G to group them together, and now all we have to do is just fill the rest of the area with this same horse shape. As you can see in the layers panel, I still have that base rectangle that we created, that is 400 by 200, and by the way, if you accidentally deleted it, do not have to worry about it. You can simply create a new one and bring it towards the bottom of everything in the layers panel. We do not need this horse image, so I'm just going to delete that as well, and then I'm going to simply select that shape, the horse style shape that we created, and make it a child of that rectangle shape. So and let's just maybe bring its stroke width to be slightly lower, and now we can simply tile it as we see fit. But before I do that, I want to just simply convert it into symbols. So maybe I want to recolor it at the later stage. I should be able to recolor it. So I'm just going to press create to create a tile, and then I'm going to simply move it horizontally. Now in the original shape, this horse shape that we created, that we had that 300 width. So the same thing we are going to do. We're going to press Ctrl J to copy it, and instead of moving 400, we are going to move it 300 and see how it fills. Actually, now it fills it perfectly. Let me just bring this outside that rectangle, so you can see that it fits perfectly. Now all I have to do is to create a contrast in this one, and for that purpose I'm going to select that copied you can say the symbol, and simply detach it, and then simply recolor it slightly different. Let's just simply recolor it to be maybe you can say that let's just recolor it to be white, and just the details that we have in this one, let's just make them black. Okay, and now we are seeing that you can say the contrast. I'm going to select that one, that group that we have, and simply create a symbol from that as well. And now I can just simply select that one, this symbol, press Ctrl J to copy it, and then put it on the other side. So we know that if we just reduce -300 from it, we fit it perfectly on the black tile, and if we reduced -300 again from this one, we get perfectly fitting it on the other side. Now we can easily select the black tile, press Ctrl J to copy it, and simply subtract -600 to perfectly fit on the other side. We can select the black tile again, press Ctrl J to copy it, and instead of subtracting, simply add 600, and we can perfectly fit it on the other side. Okay guys, now that we have one row ready, we can simply select all of these and fill rest of the document with it, and all we have to do is press Ctrl J to copy all of these after selecting them, and then we need to move them vertically 200 points. So I'm going to subtract 200 from the y-axis, and now we need to fill them perfectly in this the white horse or the white one should have adjacent to it the one that is the black tile. So currently we have in the vertical axis we have white and the black one and the black one. We do not want it, we want black and then white. So we need to move it horizontally, and there are you need to test it yourself. You might have to adjust these figures later on. So if I just simply, let's say, add 400 points to the y-axis and then try to see if it fits or not, you can see that it fits perfectly. And if I just add, you can say that just remove that group from the rectangle, and you can then see it that it is now fitting perfectly with one another. That is what we wanted. And the reason we moved it 400 points was because you can see that the base rectangle width we had was 400 points, and that is the reason we need to move it horizontally 400 points. And now all I have to do is select that white horse that we had here, or simply we can select this one, the center one, press Ctrl J and place it here on the other side, and we need to move it minus, let's say, 600, and it perfectly fits in that location. We need to move that black one here in this location because we have this slight face or the head of the mouth of the horse that we have, and it should have been filled with the black one. So that's why I just simply need to copy it and then move it minus, let's say, 300 in that location, and actually minus 600 we should have put here. Anyway, we can put minus 300 again to fit it perfectly at that location. Okay, now that we have two rows ready, we can simply select all of these rows, press Ctrl J to copy it, and then move it vertically. Let's say move it vertically 400 points. So let's just put minus 400 here and place it there, and then we can simply move them horizontally 400 points. Let's just move them minus 400 horizontally to fit them perfectly. Now we have these ones that are going beyond it, we do not need it. We can simply use the ones that we already have. So here we have this black one that we need to be copied on the other side. I'm going to press Ctrl J to copy it and move, let's just move it 1200 points because the width of the document is 1200. Simply we can select this white one, press Ctrl J to copy it and move it 1200 points in this location. So guys, in this way you can fill the rest of the document. Now in order to fill the bottom edge of the pattern, we can simply select the top row and press Ctrl J and move it 1200 points downwards. So in the y-axis I can simply add 1200 and then it fits perfectly at this edge. I can just simply, you can say that, bring the symbols out of those rectangles, anyone. Actually the white one is already outside, the black one is already outside. Let's see if we need to bring this white one outside as well and hide the rectangle. Now you can see that we have this perfect looking kind of like a horse shapes blended together, horse shapes pattern, tessellation pattern, and we can simply test it. We can just simply export it as a PNG image. So let me just export it as a PNG image. I can then simply create a new document. It does not matter what size it is. I can simply create a square or a rectangle shape, use that fill tool. In the solid I'm going to choose the bitmap and select the PNG image, and simply let's just scale it down to see if we get if we see any kind of seam or not. So currently you can see that we do not see any kind of seam here, fits perfectly, everything looks great, and we have got ourselves a beautiful horse themed tessellation pattern. Now again, you can use any kind of animal. The dogs work better, and you can use it for create birds and cats. Just make sure that you get that image that has this defined profile or the side view of that animal. So guys, that's how you can easily create a tessellation pattern using a parallelogram, and hopefully you have found this video to be helpful. If so, make sure that you like the video and let me know in the comments below what do you think about it. And if you faced any kind of difficulty or confusion in this pattern or in this video, you can ask me in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer your comments and help you in this regard. And hopefully guys, I'll see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.